postponed due to winter weather. And then those of you that signed up for the second try of this meeting, which was postponed by the pandemic, thank you so much for your patience. While our staff and design team have been able to coordinate with the town of Mint Hill and other agencies, we haven't really begun the planning process as of yet. So that's going to change tonight. The input that we receive from you this evening and through our public input website over the coming days will be used to kick the project off and get things moving forward. So for those of you who are not used to using Zoom, we'll do a very quick tutorial. You'll see typically in the bottom left corner of your screen, there's a microphone button. If there's a red slash through it, that means that you are muted. So we encourage you to stay muted throughout much of the presentation tonight. Toward the end, we will have an open question and answer portion of the program. So at that point, you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask a question. If you'd like to, you can share your video. Most of our team will be sharing our videos as we're presenting this evening. So it is as much as, it feels as much like a real meeting, a face-to-face meeting as possible, even though this is a little bit different. Let's see, if you have any questions throughout the evening, you'll notice that there is a button either on the top or bottom of your screen that says chat, and it's got a little word box that comes off of that. And so if you click that, it will activate a chat window, and you can go in the bottom, type in a question, type in some information there. So we'll do a very quick test of the chat window. If you would click that button to activate the window, type your name, your zip code, and your favorite place to go outside. It could be a park, it could be a greenway, it could be your backyard. And so we'll give everybody a minute to test that function out. And it looks like we are off to the races. Yosemite. Sam likes to go to Yosemite.
Okay. We don't know how to get the chat option up.
Do you have a button on the top, or a row of buttons on the top or bottom of your screen?
We're looking.
Okay.
Oh yes, chat. There's chat 20.
Okay, do we want
We press chat. It's okay.
Do you see a window that comes up there?
Yes.
And you'll see replies from some other folks.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to add your information in there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So as we go through the program, you can either write questions down on a pad if you have a pad of paper, or you can write those in the chat. And so what we'll do as we go through the program tonight is we will look at those chat questions and start to answer those toward the end of the meeting. Let's see, and finally, we're going to try another feature out tonight in Zoom. It's called Annotate. So if you scroll your mouse to the top of your screen, you should have a little button up there that says View Options. Then you can click Annotate. And so if you select the stamp tool there, you'll be able to mark a stamp on the screen. And so we're going to use that like we use stickers on posters in a lot of our meetings. So if you want to go on there now and try that out, go to View Options, Annotate Stamp. I see some folks are starting to get the hang of it with stars, marks, and hearts, and X's, and scribbles, and everything. So when we get to a certain point in the program later tonight, we'll have some images for you to look at, and you'll select your favorite images, which represent the types of amenities that you want to see at the park. So it looks like most folks are doing well there. If you have any issues, you can type a quick message in the chat, and then one of the folks with our team will be able to help you out with that. We got somebody drawing a face. All right, so we're gonna clear the stamps out for right now, and we're gonna get moving forward with the meeting. So without further ado, I'm gonna introduce James Williams. He is one of my colleagues with Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation and Capital Planning, and he's serving as the planner for Ezell Park. So James, take it away.
All right, thanks, Bert. Again, welcome everybody. I'm James. I'm a planner, Mecklenburg County Park and Rec, Capital Planning and Division. And I have the privilege to be working this evening with a team that we have assembled, professional team, that's going to take us through the process of the development of Ezell, and I want to say Ezell Farm Community Park. We have really been trying to get this going, as Bert has said, and we're excited tonight to have that opportunity. This team that I'm associated with, at the point, we have David Booth, and David Booth is with Mecklenburg County Assets and Facility Management. He will be the project manager for the project. Our lead design team or consultant design team, multidisciplinary team is Stimmel, and they're represented tonight by Emily Brewer, and also we have who's also a landscape architect that's going to be, sort of guiding the process is Dan Blackman. So we're real excited to have those two people on the team leading. And as a part of their consultancy, they will also have Stitch, who are architects, and we also have MMSA, who are the mechanical. So you see, we have a very diverse team to look at the project. Engineers, a multidisciplinary approach will be given for this project. And at least our most principal person that we're looking at is our stakeholder, the town of Mint Hill. We know the history of this park, and we know how important it is to the town of Mint Hill. And we want to make sure that as a principal stakeholder, that we listen to the voices that's coming out of that area. The community workshop that we have today is a virtual community workshop. And we have a few goals that we would like to try to achieve. And one of the things is we thought that at first we would have this meeting at Mint Hill Town Hall, and that didn't happen. So we're doing it virtually, but we have goals that we would like to achieve during this virtual meeting. One of the first goals that we'd like to achieve from the meeting is to understand and first what the word community park is. And when we look at community park, we're going to understand how it relates to Mecklenburg County as a service provider of public recreation. What does that community park means as it relates to that? Secondly, what we want to do is understand the existing conditions. Always we need to know what are the current conditions of the park. Any landscape architect or engineer or architect will look at what the site is saying. What is the context of the site? Third, we would like to get a presentation of the existing features and then fall back on something that's very critical, which we have as a presentation. We got a lot of calls asking about, the programs of the 2010 master plan. Now that's been a little minute back, so we want to evaluate that. We want to go back and look at those and see, are those still relevant today? So that's a big part of this meeting, is to look at the visioning of the past and then come up with some ideas in and around how this could work. And the annotation is going to help us with that as we get to that part of the program. The main thing is, the other thing that we would like to say is that we want and we encourage, an engaged activity and thoroughly engaged. And we think that we're going to have that tonight. We got good participation, and I want to say kudos to all the people who signed up. And with this engagement, we would like you to really interact with the website, publicinput.com, Ezell. This will become our project page website, if you will. On that website, you'll be able to get contact information, myself and Booth, David Booth. You will also be able to see any updates. You'll be able to see presentations, and you will have surveys. So we really ask you to take the surveys, engage with the site, and let's create, this vision that we can bring forth for Ezell Community Park. With that, I'll turn it over to the consultants who will lead us into the discussion. Dan and Emily on the park and existing conditions.
Okay, thank you, James. This is Dan Blackman with Stimel Associates, and to start off our discussion and to give you a little bit of background on the analysis and the things that we've done, we're going to look sort of at a broad base, understand where the park is located, then walk through with a little finer detail. I feel like most of you are probably familiar with where the park is, but sometimes it's interesting to see what else is around it, looking through the lens of, this park being the center focus, and then what else is nearby. So as you can see, town of Mint Hill is just outside of the 1 mile circle. It's within the 3 mile circle. Town of Matthews at the bottom left of the page is not far away at all. You'll see sort of a hints of over the map, a yellow background, and also like a pinkish background that's showing the town limits between town of Matthews and town of Mint Hill, divided by Idlewild Road. So you can also see Independence Boulevard to the left-hand side, I-485 looping around and joining. And then, of course, Highway 51 skirts the northwest edge of the property and joins the town of Mint Hill and Matthews. Bert, if you advance for us. So as James alluded to, we're re-looking at this master plan, and one of the reasons why is because of changes in growth and differences over the last 10 years when the original master plan was put together. So on this slide, what we're trying to illustrate on the left-hand side is an aerial photograph showing where the park is located. Again, we've got the concentric circles. These are 1/2 mile and 1 mile radii from the center of the park. And on the right-hand side, in 2019, the site plan aerial shows 7 new neighborhoods that have either started or complete within that 1 mile radius of the park. So there's been some change along this corridor, change happening directly adjacent to the park, and I would imagine that you've also seen that change in growth in the town of Mint Hill and Matthews and the southeastern portion of Mecklenburg County. And the bar graph at the bottom is trying to illustrate, we've captured some census data, some projections. Certainly the 2010 census data shows a population of 22,000 roughly in the town of Mint Hill, up to 2018 where there was a growth of 4,500 additional residents over that 8-year period. And of course we would expect in the 2020 census data to show us even more growth. Upper. So we've called this a community park, and try to give some definition to what that means. We're going to reference the Mecklenburg County Comprehensive Master Plan from 2015. It's very similar in definition to what you might find in other park and rec associations and organizations all over the country. But to give kind of some parameters of what this means, it's a park that is in size roughly 20 to 100 acres in size. It's certainly, so that means it's, fits in the category larger than a neighborhood park, but smaller than a regional park. Tends to serve citizens within a 15-minute drive. At 35 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour, that equates to about a 10-minute drive. It can have both active and passive recreation. So on active amenities, there might be things that are organized sports, courts and fields, and either diamond-shaped fields or rectangular-shaped fields, or hard surfaces and courts as well. And can also have passive amenities, including walking trails and less active, I guess, recreational opportunities. And as I mentioned earlier, the community park is smaller than a regional park, but we will also, as Mecklenburg County requires on all their parks, maintain a 100-foot buffer around the perimeter of the park. Bert? So again, part of our analysis is to understand what's around Ezell Park. So we've taken a glimpse at a 1 mile, 3 mile, and 5 mile radius. This is the same map that we saw earlier. To take an inventory of what's here, what's nearby. What we're showing here is 27 parks. 21 of them fall within that 5 mile radius. And then we've done an inventory of what amenities are offered at those parks. And it includes things like playgrounds and multi-purpose fields, baseball fields, softball fields, tennis courts, splash pads, and so forth. And the idea here is that part of it is to understand what's available and what's there, but also understand what's being offered to make sure that we're not competing with other facilities that are nearby. And so this is a quick summary of what that analysis showed to us. The most popular, or most provided activities, I should say, and amenities within that 5 mile area are picnic tables, followed by playgrounds. There's also several sports fields, 72 of them within that 5 mile radius, and 23 tennis courts as well. And then on the bottom edge of that is those amenities that are least provided within that 5 mile radius. And that includes recreation centers and pavilions, dog parks, splash pads, and stages, followed by horseshoes and sand volleyball pits and some other things. Bert? I'll turn it over to Emily Buer. She'll walk you through a site analysis and a couple of plans.
Thanks, Dan. I'm going to run through kind of the general existing conditions and site features of the park from when we walked through it, gosh, in late 2019, I believe. It's been about a year since we did that site walk. This year's kind of gone by really fast with the pandemic and all. So this will help you get acquainted with the site if you haven't been out and on it or around it. This is the parcel in and of itself is about 90 acres, a little over. It's bounded by Well Road, Matthews Mint Hill Road, and Mintwood Drive. We've got two existing gravel and gated access points, one off of Well Road, which is near where the number 8 is, and then one where the number 2 is coming off of Mintwood Drive. And the Mintwood Drive access serves the existing community gardens that are already out there and well established. We've got one larger farm pond and then another smaller pond down to the planned southeast corner of the site. It's majority pasture land with a good portion of it still wooded. We'll run through the next few slides that show a little bit larger photos. So we've got the really well-established community garden that's been going out there, that's on site and very active, and the existing gravel access lane that supports that and goes to kind of an existing mature tree grove that's on the high point of the site and was where there was once a farmhouse a long time ago. And then we've got a few different views looking across the different pasture areas on the site. And I think you can go to the next one too. These photos don't really do it a whole lot of justice. It's beautiful rolling terrain out there, and it's hard to kind of capture that on the photos. But so the first larger photo is looking across the farm pond towards the wooded area. And then going from the bottom across is looking back across the ridge line that runs through the property, back towards the garden, through the windbreak there. You can't see it behind the windbreak. A view looking up Well Road towards Matthew Mint Hill Road, and that's standing at where the gated gravel access is off of that road. You go to the next one. This is looking back across the farm pond the opposite way, so standing on the dam that's along the tree line of the wooded area. We've got a few different successional pastures on the parcel. One that's at where the number 11 is on the map, and then another one along Mintwood Drive. Those areas have some scrubby growth that started to grow up. It was a pasture at one time that has been let go, and it's started to create some wonderful habitats for wildlife. And then there's another secluded pasture that's still hayed, and that's where the number 12 is on the map. And then you go to the next plan. So this plan actually dives a little bit deeper into the research that we did on the parcel and the site analysis for the park. This land was traditional territory of the Waxhaw and Catawba nations a long time ago. And we're also in the process of digging a little bit further into the history of the land, its ownership records, and former use. So if anybody has any history that they know about this property that they'd like to share, we'd love for you to share it with us after this meeting so we can incorporate that. It's important to us to document the history of this and hopefully incorporate it into what this ultimately ends up being. Like I mentioned before, it's about 90.5 acres. It's zoned single family, so we will need to rezone it to be able to put a park on this property. So that'll be part of our process for this, probably starting early next year. We're about 4.5 miles to downtown Matthews and 1.5 miles to downtown Mint Hill. We are showing the proposed Ncdot improvements on this that are part of their Highway 51 project. So that's the streetscape that you see along the frontage here is what they're proposing, including the multi-use path, which is that dashed line that runs across the front of the property along Matthews Mint Hill Road. And we believe that the potential primary access should remain off of Mintwood Drive, where the gravel access drive is for the community gardens, with some potential secondary access points depending on what the programming ends up being and what you all want to see on this park moving forward. We may have 2 potential access points, one off of Well Road and then one off of Mintwood Drive on the south side of the property, if it's so determined that it's needed, depending on the programming. We have the ridge line that runs through the property, right through the existing community gardens and then across over to where that potential secondary access could be off of Well Road. There's some tree lines that serve as windbreaks through there, and that create some really nice secluded rooms on the property, and really kind of hide the fact that you're along Matthews Mint Hill Road. We've got the existing community garden that we showed you photos of. A lot of the pasture land, some of it's still actually being hayed, but it's beautiful and rolling. We've got the existing farm pond, a lot of existing mature wooded vegetation on the property. We are in 2 different stream watersheds they're actually split by that ridge line. The top portion goes to the McAlpine Creek, and the southern portion below that ridge line goes to Goose Creek. And with that, we actually have some pretty large post-construction buffers that are required on the 2 ponds that we have on the site and the drainage ways that flow from them. We will have 100-foot buffers around the perimeter of the park, but especially where we're adjacent to residential to help protect that. And just to quickly summarize, I believe we're a little over half of the property is pasture land, so about just under 50 acres of the 90.5 is pasture, and then 32.5 is wooded, and then we've got 2 acres between the 2 ponds, and then just under 6 acres that would be protected by the post-construction buffers on the property. Then if you'll go to the next slide, Bert, we'll run through. This is the plan that you probably all have seen. I believe it's up on the project website. This is the program that was in the site diagram that was developed in 2010 and based off of public input from 2007 and 2008. So as James had indicated, this is old. A lot has changed since then. We know that Ncdot is planning highway improvements on Highway 51 now. So the little insert we have to the top right corner of this slide shows those improvements, and that the primary access will most likely be off of Mintwood instead of Matthews Mint Hill Road like this previous exhibit shows, and that we would probably push and try to see if Ncdot will provide a signalized pedestrian crossing at Matthews Mint Hill Road, so that those that live across Matthews Mint Hill would be able to access the park safely. The other thing that we know that's changed since this was developed in 2010 was that the community gardens were started in 2013. So this plan shows community gardens in a different location than where they currently are, and that's because they were started after this plan was drawn. So that's something that we would probably look to not relocate since they're already well established and very active in the community. So besides that, we are looking for your feedback on the programming that was developed from that input more than 10 years ago. And based on that, people wanted to see a community garden, which you guys have already started out there. A welcome center, which would be in the park core with parking. Several different areas of active programmed recreation, which are the green bubbles. That would include multi-purpose fields or an open play meadow, a playground complex for various age groups, an outdoor event space that could be an event lawn or an amphitheater, and another active multi-purpose field or play meadow. The orange is all passive recreation, so those areas would all be natural surface trails, mowed walking paths, potentially boardwalks if we so need them, biking paths, and then the other yellow blob on the left side of the park would be agrarian amenities. Those are amenities that are more geared towards agriculture. So the possibility of a farmer's market or greenhouses or an incubator or teaching farm, and some of those things along those lines. So we've got more examples of those that we'll run through in the interactive portion to help get your feedback on some of these. So we are here today to see how much of this programming is still valid. Are there other programming elements that were not considered previously that we should be considering as we move forward? And then ultimately we'll reevaluate the organization of the elements to see if it still makes sense or if portions need to be redesigned. And so we look forward to all of your input. send this back over to James or Bert to help lead the interactive portion for feedback.
Thanks, Emily. I think our next thing is to sort of do an interactive session. We thought that we would, go through the farming, passive, or active type programming elements, and then follow up too with what the passive and the active. So from fields, and then you will be able to place a heart, as Bert had mentioned earlier in the process, on which one that you would prefer. And similarly, we're going to have something on the website that will also take you through a sequence of choosing, because the main thing here we have to get is a priority. We're trying to prioritize what elements we need to have in the park. There will be 100-foot buffers. I know that was one of the chats around the park for sure. And as Emily said, the community garden is not going anywhere. It's going to stay. In fact, it may expand. I'm going to try to relate as much as we can to Purser Park, which is down the street. We're going to try to tie into that. We're going to look at all type of amenities. I think basketball courts. I know we've had some things about tennis courts. So that's a part of that. Fortunately, we have 90 acres that we sort of can work with. Not saying that we're going to build out 90 acres, but we do have the opportunity to try to plan, what's best for the area. So that's the big thing. Again, I have to repeat tonight is that we really have to get some understanding of what the community would like, and that always excites me. I see something about Lacrosse Fields. We do have, one of the things we were thinking about was, having a lot of open fields. They may not be structured, but they would be fields. They would be open play fields that could be structured. So I think we have that. The questions about community garden keep coming, and we're excited about that. The community garden is a heart, and it's one of our best gardens. From Tim Turton, who has spoke very highly of the involvement of the community in doing the gardens. I think Bert, we're trying to do the heart annotation. I don't know if that's successfully.
So I think we'll get into Q&A a few minutes. Some of the questions that people may have may be answered.
Okay.
And some of the questions that we received through the website leading up to tonight may be answered in the next couple of minutes. So we talked a little bit about different types of recreation, passive, active, and agrarian or nature-based. And so we wanted to go through and provide a brief description of those three types, and then look at some specific park amenities that would fit within that group. So passive recreation are activities that take place within more of a natural and minimally developed spaces. Active are activities or specific facilities like fields, courts, and other more highly developed spaces. And then agrarian and nature-based activities relate to education and preservation of nature or sustainable cultivation of the land. So now we're going to move into our interactive portion. And so the annotation exercise we did early on is where we get to use that now. So we're going to have to use the honor system tonight because I can't physically give you 3 stickers to stick on the board here. So what I'd like for you to do from a passive recreation standpoint is use that stamp tool and put a symbol on the top 3 passive recreation amenities that you would like to see included at Ezell Park. And we'll give you a couple of minutes to go and do that. So as you start doing that, I'll go through. We've got dog parks, disc golf, amphitheaters, picnic tables, fishing pond, a yoga or event lawn, horseshoes, cornhole or bocce, shelters and small picnic areas, walking and biking trails, and nature-based play areas. So it looks like everyone is using a little bit. It's much easier for us to count stamps than it is to count squiggles. So just a heads up on that one. And you may be asking, how are you guys going to count these? Well, when we get to the end of this, when we close this annotation down, I'll be able to save a screenshot here, and then we can go on and physically count those items that that are most popular. So I'm seeing a lot on walking trails, which is not surprising. I think we got quite a few comments on the website for that. Several on disc golf. People like the fishing pond. I don't see anything that's gotten 0 so far. Check waiting room. All right, we are going to give everybody a couple more seconds. All right, so we are good to go there. I have saved that, and I'm going to clear it. So I'd ask everybody to stop annotating for just a second. I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, so now active recreation. So these are the more specific facilities: courts, fields, other highly developed spaces. So again, I'll ask you to mark, hopefully with stamps, but if you can't figure out the stamps, the squiggle works too. The top 3 choices that you would like to see from an active recreation standpoint. So we've got multi-purpose sports fields. So those would be ones where you could do football, lacrosse, or soccer. Splash pads and pools. We got a lot of comments about splash pads through the public input website. An indoor pavilion or an event space. That could be kind of an indoor-outdoor space. Gaga ball, which is kind of like a version of dodgeball without pinging people with dodgeballs. Baseball, softball fields, mountain bike or cross-country trails, more developed thematic play structures, basketball courts, sand volleyball, tennis and pickleball. Let's see, looks like basketball is pretty popular. Mountain bike and cross country is pretty popular. Someone says no to the baseball fields. Splash pad is very popular. That's not a surprise. So I'll give everybody another minute or so. All right, I'm going to save this. We are saved. All right, I'll ask everybody to stop with that. I'm going to clear those drawings out. And I'm going to move on to agrarian and nature-based recreation. So with that, go ahead. You get 3 choices. Let us know your top 3 choices that you'd like to see within the park that are associated with the agrarian or nature-based park recreation types. We did get a question about mobility, and we strive to design our facilities for universal accessibility. So, you know, the American Disabilities Act is something that we follow by law now. we try to go beyond that. And so with universal accessibility, we avoid stairs where possible, and we make slopes accessible for folks of all abilities. So we've got a mobility garden, bird watching areas, which actually some of those successional fields that we have are great for that. Open play fields, community gardens. The community garden is spectacular out there. I was out there a couple of months ago and was surprised at how much was growing in there. Sensory garden. Camping. I don't know if this is big enough for camping, but we put it in there anyway. Farmers market. Education or demonstration farm. Nature-based play structures. And more nature trails. And those would be more soft surface trails that you'd find in a nature preserve or in a state park. So we'll give folks another few seconds for their final marks there. I think somebody is maybe doing a few more stamps than 3. All right. So with that, I'm going to save. And I'm going to clear those out. So I would ask that you please stop annotating. All right. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to James Williams. We're going to start to go through, I think some of the questions that we had that were shared ahead of time through the website. We've hopefully covered most of those. And I believe James and some of the other folks on the team have been checking the chat window and seeing what other questions have come up. So James, go right ahead. James, you are on mute.
The community garden was one of those.
There you go.
The community garden was one of the things that we saw a lot of actually on the comments, which we also getting a lot in the chat, was about the garden. So we definitely want to say that the garden is going to be there, and we're looking and expanding it. And also the people who are involved in the garden will definitely continue to be involved in it when it expands. Hopefully we'll be able to get more members. Catherine and also, as I mentioned, Tim Turton, they're going to work with the gardeners in that area. One of the things in the garden that was missing, they didn't have it. So one of the things is to sort of look at the possibility of doing some kind of structure to house their tools and equipment. Also, we were looking for a platform that we can actually put the mulch on so that we won't get fire ants. So there's some amenities that we feel like would enhance the whole gardening experience. So that's what we're going to do with the garden. So we're really excited about it. And it will become almost the centerpiece of the park. As Emily and Dan had showed, we think that that's critical to tie into the farm theme. So we want to keep the garden going. Another thing that was sort of asked was the vehicle entrance access off Whale Road. Still will always try to be secondary entrance. So we'll sort of keep that in mind, whether it could be gated, and if we go with the plan, we will have some of the farmers market things over there, and more planting type things will be in that area. As it gets to the farming, we've been talking to Ag Extension, is still excited about doing some farm type elements, how many, acre lots, will it be an acre lot? We're talking to some other entities that we're excited about that will come in and manage that for us. We'll keep those conversations going. And as the process goes through, we'll be able to let you understand, how we want to proceed with that. I think that was pretty much on the comments that we got that was posted on publicinput.com. What we'd like for you to do is keep posting those comments, because we get an opportunity to address them, as we go into the process. And the chats, I think we had a lot of chats that came through, were relatively saying, we like certain things, or confirming some of the things that we're doing. I think we had a big thing about traffic, and we know traffic is a concern. So we will be looking at 51 and looking at where we're going to be able to make our main entry point to come in. I think one of the things with traffic, we can ask Dan or Emily to talk a little bit about 51, about how that's going to, work out with their project. I think their project is 10 years out. Is that right, Emily?
Yeah, well, the last timeline that Ncdot gave us was that they would do right-of-way acquisition in 2029 and start construction in 2031. So it's a ways out, way beyond the timeline that we have for this park at this time. But we will continue to stay in touch with them through the entire programming and design process, as well as share all that feedback with you all to make sure that we're addressing your concerns about traffic and not creating further issues.
Emily, this is Dan, if I can piggyback on that. The one thing that we did also hear from Ncdot is where they stopped this project. It was just before public hearings and public meetings. So their anticipation is to kickstart, when the project kickstarts again, they will come out to the public and hold those public meetings to get input on the drives and roadways and that kind of thing.
I saw something in the chat about Midwood being the problem as far as traffic, and so that's something we would have to look, with the town again, understanding what type of measures we can put in and improvements along Midwood. That will also be a part of the study. We definitely want safe access to the park, and we also like people that can walk to the park. So that's something that we'll definitely, sidewalks on Midwood. We like to have sidewalks around our park. So that's something we definitely would like to improve. I think, the park, we're excited about also our next meeting, and we'll go into timeline to talk about that a little bit on our closing slide. But we're excited about the next meeting that will generally, we're thinking now will happen sometime in January 2021. And so we want to look at that, and so rich narrow aspects of the road on Midwood. Again, Midwood is definitely something we have to look at as a design team on how we approach that.
Hey, James, this is Katie.
Yes.
There seems to be a couple questions about process in general, how we will kind of utilize the feedback given today to make decisions, and then what are the next steps, and when will the park be open? Can you talk at all about schedule?
We're going to pull up the next slide. And we're really excited about it. Like I said, you see where we are today. And of course, I just mentioned we'll have another meeting in January 2021. And a part of that meeting is hopefully we'll get enough vision and enough programmatic elements that we can come back to you with a plan, a master plan, a revised, updated master plan that the public really likes and can move forward. Now, as a part of that, again, we're going to put a survey similar to the annotation experiment that we went to today. And if we put that on the website, it'll be at publicinput.com. And of course, everyone will be able to interact with that. And we're going to have that up for 2 weeks. And during that time, hopefully we'll get good interaction and we can start ranking and prioritizing, what you would like to see. So definitely get the word and engage in publicinput.com. That's going to be critical. And then once we come up with a master plan that we sort of approved, of course, we have to go through the process of getting that approved on our side with the county, and our also district and division sort of would look at it. And once it's approved, then we can start moving forth with hopefully getting into some design, construction documentation in 2021. We actually see this not really coming to an end or park opening is 2023, which is, far out there, and 2022 will be when we'll be doing most of the construction. So that's, pretty much a schedule, and it's anticipated schedule, mind you. It can be condensed, or things can happen that may expand it out. This also has to go through a rezoning. So we have to work through that process and the permitting process. So those two things would sort of, work with the schedule. But we anticipate that we still will be able to come out fairly quickly by the end of the year, hopefully with a map we can bring forth at our next meeting in January 2021.
All right, I'm looking at some other questions on here. This one may be for Emily, because you kind of hinted at this when you were talking about the plan, but there's been a lot of questions about how the park interacts with its neighbors in terms of a buffer or barriers, and what the plan might include in terms of buffering the neighbors from the park, whether it's passive or active.
We will maintain a 100-foot distance from the property line around the entire perimeter before any activities are placed. So you'll at least have that distance. In addition to where there's active recreation, if there is any in this park, we would do additional buffering to help shield that so that the impact is hopefully non-existent to neighbors, because that would be our goal. And as James had mentioned too, as designers, we like the current nature of the park and would like to highlight that as much as possible. But again, it's all going to depend on your input tonight and through the survey on the website, because this park is for all of you, and it needs to be what all of you want to see out there.
Yeah, one of the things too to follow up is that we've been considering is right now we're haying the park, and we're thinking about, is that going to be some of the practices that we continue? And if we do continue some of that for certain portions of the park, one of the ideas is that we're going to need some kind of barn, some kind of structure, architecture to put the equipment in, and also that would tie into a pavilion. Fortunately, we don't have a leasable facility in this area for weddings and for venues. Again, that will be one of the things on the survey that you can say that you would like to see, and we can sort of work with that. And overall, we think that with this park too, it probably will be phased development. It's a master plan and will have to be phased. And so with that, we will come up with what we think the first phase should be. So the master plan is critical to understand the future vision so that we can sort of attack the funding that we need to complete the build out. So, and we don't want to, overlap services. So we really want to be very smart about how we look at what program items we put in the park. We're getting a lot of chats, a lot of comments. We're definitely gonna document all of those because they help, as Emily was saying, to understand some of the history and context. And that comes from the people in and around the park. Yeah, we will answer, Josh. We will answer.
So I was gonna ask Josh to unmute himself and ask his question.
Yes. Can he do that? He's trying.
What is the current funding level to develop the park? I believe our total budget for this is $3.6 million. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I've hinted this several times. This is Kelly. My question is in developing this park, are you all linking it to the master plan with the bike paths that are coming through 51? Because there's a lot of trails that are being built around this area, but there's really no plan that's solid for how it goes through Matthews, Met Hill, especially 51. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Kelly. Question about linking the park to bike and pedestrian facilities. So yes, we would absolutely link to anything that would be along 51 or a part of the improvement project for 51. I'll also add that we're in the process right now of developing our new park and recreation master plan playbook. And as part of that, we are updating the Greenway master plan. You know, traditionally our Greenway master plan has been stream based, and we don't have a major stream kind of down in this area. So the other thing that we're looking at is making meaningful connections between those stream corridors with overland or urban trails. And Katie, I don't know if you're familiar enough with the master plan work that we've done to know what we've got kind of close to here as an access point.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I was trying to pull it up right now. I will say that related to MEC Playbook, I dropped in a link into the chat, which is publicinput.com/MEC Playbook. And we have some engagement, some questions open right now to try to get some feedback about some of the goals of the master plan.
Okay, and Steve let me know that that is a plan to construct that multi-use trail on the south side of 51. So that would be on the park side. Josh, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, so which one? I mean, there's been several, right? There's several of us in this area that feel very strongly that should be left as it is. I haven't seen anything from y'all to address those concerns. You tell us there's 21 parks in a 5-mile radius, and that there's not one park here within a mile. I'm not sure, how many parks do we need? So my other question was, what if we just didn't do anything and save taxpayer money? I appreciate you letting me speak though. Thank you, Bert.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, this was a project that was identified in probably our previous master plan in 2008 or 2015. It was a piece of property that was acquired for a park purpose. A lot of the parks that we have in this are smaller, more neighborhood parks, not necessarily made for any kind of gatherings or active uses that would require some support facilities. So spray grounds are something that, you know, you've got to have restrooms and parking for. And typically we don't have that type of facility within a neighborhood park. We need something a little easier to drive to, like a community park this size.
We already have 2 community parks, Veterans, and then there's one other one on Idlewild, and this is a neighborhood, Bert.
Sure. Yeah, it's also along a major thoroughfare along 51.
Right, and Veterans is a 1.5 miles from here?
I believe so.
Josh, I would just, it's Kelly again. I just would wonder if you've seen along Freedom Drive, and light rail is coming through 51, light rail is coming through this way. I was scared living in that area before light rail started, before the greenways were put in along South Boulevard and all around there. And it's beautiful there now. It was scary at first. And I do agree that we need to take into account the noise level for the people living around it. But I think if you look at some of the projects that have already been done countywide and see how they really impacted the community around them, Idlewild Park and Veterans are both lacking in a lot of things, which is why when I want to go places, I have to drive to the newer parks that have built in the north side of town, which we shouldn't have to drive 30 to 35 minutes to get a good park.
Okay. I also saw a couple of questions through here. I'm trying to scan back through about ability and incorporating those types of features within the playground. We've got staff internal to Park and Recreation, and we also work with an external entity, Disability Rights and Resources, to review all of our projects and look to create inclusivity within our play areas. And so we look at facilities or amenities within the play area that are easy to transfer, easy for children of all abilities to be able to go and use. So thank you. There were a few on there who were asking about that. I think I saw someone mention about a gym, a fitness gym. Currently, we don't have plans to do anything that would be quite that large in terms of an indoor facility here. And definitely the budget that we have for this park would not allow us to do anything of that type of size. So a few more comments about particular amenity types. Let's see. More comments of us in support of more passive park. I think I've seen more comments on here about no ball fields than ball fields. So as we start to wrap up this evening, I wanted to give our Park and Recreation Director, Lee Jones, a few minutes to share his final thoughts.
Thank you, Bert, and good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your time that you gave tonight for this workshop. And on behalf of County Manager Dina R. DiOrio, our chair of our County Board of Commissioners, Mr. George Dunlap, I believe our Assistant County Manager Leslie Johnson is on this call, and Commissioner Susan Rodriguez McDowell for their support of this project. Please note that we've been working on this for a long time, and I know that there's mixed feeling in the air, some frustration by the fact that it has taken so long, and some concern that we are not listening. We are listening to you. That is the whole reason that we are doing this workshop tonight. This is our first blush to scratch the surface and see the type of amenities that people want. And there was a lot of description about the type of parks that we have: neighborhood parks, community parks, and regional parks. I think all the comments have been great. This level of discourse is very conducive to being productive and trying to come to a meaningful solution that will address the concerns and needs of the community. You know, Mint Hill is an incorporated municipality that we consider a partner. It's one of the 7 incorporated municipalities in Charlotte. The city of Mint Hill, or the town of Mint Hill, does not have a park and recreation department, so we're that. So we are here to listen. Your words are not falling on deaf ears. I've worked very closely with the town manager, Brian Welch, and this is very important to him and his vision for the direction that the town is to go in. That being said, please feel free to express your opinions, and you will see that we're going to follow the path to make the best choices and the best decisions. Of late, if you look at what's been going on in Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation, and I've been here over 16 years, there's been a dramatic change in meeting the needs of our constituents with our public recreation amenities. So this is really your chance to shine and express your opinion. We look forward to continuing to work with you and will address your concerns. And I'm just so excited about this. And again, thank you for your support and your trust, your interest, and your excitement about this project.
Thank you, Lee. So if you continue to have questions or comments, we've got some links and some information, and actually we'll probably need to post. James, is your email address on the public input site, or do we want to post that in the chat here?
Yes, it is.
It's on the public input site?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if you follow the link on the bottom of the page to publicinput.com/Ezell, and Katie's just added that back into the chat there. You can continue to provide your comments, and if you'd like to reach out directly to staff, we've got, you can use the information on the screen here, or you can reach out through email through that. So that concludes the end of our presentation tonight. Thank you all for participating. We will continue to share. We'll continue to share our links to the public input page, and we'll do that kind of through our social media. If you know of friends who weren't able to attend tonight, we have recorded the meeting as well. We'll post the video recording on the website so everyone can catch up. So again, thank you, and everybody have a good evening.